Product provided by Nintendo. A couple of months ago, I made a video about how I think the release of Mario Tennis Aces on Nintendo Switch is a great reason to have more Mario sports games on Nintendo Switch. In fact, I think every Mario sports game should make it to Switch, but you guys really wanted Mario Strikers. It was by far the most talked about game in the comments of my last Mario sports video. I even get comments about it in my Mario Party video. And I get it, I think it would have made even more sense than Tennis Aces given the fact that it released right in the middle of the World Cup. This is one of those events that everyone momentarily becomes a sports fan. What better time than that to release a soccer game? But no, we got tennis. With that being said, I love this game. It plays exactly as well as I thought it would, maybe even better. The wacky Mario mechanics and traditional tennis mechanics came together to make a game that's not only better than regular tennis games, in my opinion, as usual, I would actually say it's better than every other Mario tennis game. It's not often that a new mechanic in a Mario spin-off completely changes how that game works. Double Dash would be a pretty distant second in that regard. The racket durability adds an entirely new wrinkle to how the game is played. In the time I've spent with this game and streamed online, most of my losses were a result of a broken racket, and that is a sign of a game-changing mechanic if the newest mechanic in a game can become the biggest factor in that game. And of course, I am aware that a lot of people hate when new changes like this are introduced. No one likes to have to learn a new thing in a franchise they've been playing for so long. They certainly don't want to be punished for not learning that thing. But I'd say as long as those changes feel in line with the game they're aiming to make and don't feel tacked on, I'm on board. I say all of this because I don't think they can go back from this in future sports titles. And no, I don't mean durability per se, but I do mean some sort of new wrinkle that changes the momentum of the game. Something I think would be a neat change of pace for Strikers, while also being something to differentiate it from Mario Tennis Aces, would be to make the goal the focal point of a sort of durability, but rather than encouraging you to break your opponent's goal, maybe they present a risk-reward system for scoring on your opponent's goal with specials in the same way over and over again. What I mean by that is, in Mario Strikers Charged, when using specials, you were given the chance to have a varying amount of chances to score with every special move used. The goalie would then need to defend against those shots. What if the goal became more damaged in spots where you kick the ball often? To both justify this change that is in favor of the goalie while keeping incentive for the offense to use their specials, they can make scoring when using the special more of a surefire thing in favor of the player on the offense when a special is used. Whether that means shortening the window for the goalie to be able to line up their block, making the system similar to Ace's slow-mo feature, or something that's more off the wall, make your shots akin to how the Battleship game works. Have the player pick a part of the goal to aim at through a button prompt that goalie can't see and have them guess the prompts to block them, which would be where the durability comes in. The more you pick a certain location for a special shot, the weaker that part of the goal gets, and the higher chance you have of breaking the goal and losing the game. This causes everyone involved to be a bit more strategic with how they attack the goal and how often they use their special, as well as where they need to aim to keep the goal intact while mixing up where they aim to keep the defense on their toes. Again, I get that this would turn some people off. I get it, it's just an idea, chill out. The single player aspect of the games is definitely an area that can see some improvement. We'll go a bit in both directions. I want to talk about where Mario Tennis Aces went right, but first let's talk about where Mario Tennis Aces went wrong. Mario Tennis Aces has a decent adventure mode. It does an okay job at what I consider to be the most important goal of a single player campaign in a multiplayer focused game. It teaches you what you need to know to be at least competent before jumping into the multiplayer. The thing is though, it only really does this if you want to be Mario. Of course, a lot of people will be maining Mario because duh, but not everyone. And yes, Mario is an all-around character as always, but that doesn't necessarily mean you will be prepared to just completely drop him and use someone else on the same skill level. At the very least, I would have liked the option to pick a main and play through the story with them. And even then, I don't think the story spends enough time preparing you to play the game in multiplayer. or rather, it doesn't spend enough time preparing you with tools that you'll actually use. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the RPG mechanics that are introduced in the single player campaign. I love them so much that I think it would be awesome if Strikers had something similar, but if we're going to do it, we might as well do it right. Make them have an impact in the rest of the game. If we're going full RPG, I should be able to make my main play in the way that works best for me. Nothing as drastic as changing a speed type to a heavy type, just something that would let me tweak how my shot works. Let me give Daisy Boo's broken curveball situation, stuff like that. But in the context of Strikers, maybe just include a more diverse character roster for better team building. You could recruit them in a single player campaign. The characters you recruit can be unlockable characters for the multiplayer modes too. People will complain about this, but you know what, I don't know what to tell you. Make your own video, talk about what your ideas would be, or you know, just leave them in the comments. Just don't be a jerk about it. The teams in Mario Strikers as is are pretty meh, since they're comprised mostly of sidekicks and your goalie is always the same. If they added deeper team building with a bigger roster, the teams wouldn't be so samey, and they can keep the captain's dynamic largely unchanged. I sort of veered off a little bit from the talk about story mode content with all this talk about team building, but I do want to touch on that a little bit more, so stick with me. Mario Tennis Aces is pretty light on the single player content. I know quite a few people who wanted to buy the game for the story mode alone. After playing the story mode, I wouldn't recommend buying it just for that. Like I said at the top of this video, I love Mario Tennis Aces, but the story mode has little to do with that because it's positioned in game as an additive experience, not the bread and butter of the game. I can't in good conscience tell people to buy Mario Tennis Aces for that alone, but that could be different for a Nintendo Switch Strikers game if the campaign is fleshed out and expanded on. Golf Story is a recent sports game that shows how robust a single player campaign about a sport can be without it having to be directly about the sport 100% of the time. The story doesn't need to be as deep or meaningful or anything like that. This is still a Mario game after all. In fact, I wouldn't necessarily say the plot in Aces is bad. It just didn't have a subplot to make the mode more fully featured. There's multiple game types in the Golf Story campaign. In Aces, there was just the typical tennis mode and some minigame-esque twists to that, but they were really just stripped down versions of the regular formula to laser in on a mechanic. This again isn't inherently wrong. In fact, I would encourage it to an extent, but bringing in the game types that flip the script a bit for Strikers I think would be welcome, in addition to the mini games that teach you how to play the game better, and it would help to provide more varied gameplay. The RPG mechanics in Golf Story also mean a lot more, something that I already touched on for what I think Strikers can do on Switch, but it's worth noting here that what you do in the story for Strikers can, and in my opinion should, impact your playstyle and the rest of the game, even if that means allowing for any of those alterations to be disabled in online play against players that haven't spent as much time building their team as you. Another story thing I do think Aces did great that Strikers can pull from though is the boss battles. Bring something to the table similar to Mario Aces Infinity War-esque plot, so we can be faced with unique bosses like the ones in Tennis Aces. Mario games aren't exactly strangers to fun plots either. We've seen them in the Mario RPG games and in the OG Mario Golf games. Bring that into Strikers as well. Of course, single player is still ultimately going to be secondary for most, so it doesn't have to be crazy ambitious, but I do think stepping it up a bit could be beneficial to the overall player base. As far as multiplayer improvements, I just say to do what I already touched on with the RPG elements, as well as adding a more vanilla soccer option, and to of course add online play, since I don't believe that was possible in Charged. I could be wrong on that, let me know. But those are my thoughts. What do you think Nintendo should do with Mario Strikers on Switch? What lessons do you think, if any, it can learn from Mario Tennis Aces? Let me know that and more in the comments down below. Liking the conversation? Like the video and share this video with a friend who likes Mario games or sports games or Mario sports games. Check out our website for more content like this, news articles, reviews, all that good stuff. And don't forget, most importantly, to subscribe to this channel and ring the bell for more videos like this every Tuesday and Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Podcast every Saturday when my computer doesn't hate me. Okay, that's it for me. See you next week.